What's up, crew? Today we're going to continue with the author, illustrator, story quilt maker, and champion artist Faith Ringgold as she now writes a story about Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky. So the Underground Railroad is not a real railroad, but it is where slaves could travel along to safety and freedom in the North. So slavery was in the South. They would go to the North to get their freedom, and Aunt Harriet is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman's the most famous conductor on the Underground Railroad, as she helped so many slaves get to freedom, and she's kind of an icon or symbol for freedom, equality, and fighting for what is right. So let's continue with Faith Ringgold and Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky. And actually, Cassie Louise Lightfoot and her brother BB, the same characters that Faith Ringgold used in Tar Beach. So you'll recognize those characters flying through the sky. One day, my baby brother BB and I were flying among the stars, way, way up, so far up the mountains looked like pieces of rock candy, and the oceans looked like little tiny cups of tea. We came across an old, ramshackle train in the sky. A tiny woman in a conductor's uniform appeared at the steps of the train and announced the schedule. All aboard, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Niagara Falls, Canada, all aboard, all aboard. Hundreds of bedraggled men, women, and children filled the sky and boarded the dusty old wooden train. No one spoke. It was like watching a silent movie. Come on, Cassie, BB said, jumping up on the train. Let's take a ride. Get off that train, BB. I'll tell Mom and Dad, and you'll be in a world of trouble, I yelled. But the train quickly moved off through the sky and disappeared. All I could see now were flashing lights sending a threatening message through a sea of clouds. Go free north or die. Go free north or die. BB, come back. Mom and Dad will never forgive me for letting you go. I screamed. Then the woman conductor's voice came like a soft whisper in my ear. Hello, Cassie. I'm Harriet Tubman. People call me Aunt Harriet because I take good care of them. During slavery, I carried hundreds of men, women, and children to freedom on the Underground Railroad, and I never lost a passenger, she said. Let me tell you about slavery, Cassie, Aunt Harriet said. We were brought here from Africa as slaves to work long hours on plantations for no pay. More of us died on the ships coming over than ever reached the shores. An evil atrocity slavery was. If we tried to escape and were caught, we might have a foot cut off or get sold away from our families, and then we never saw our families or friends again. A legal or church marriage was not allowed, so instead a man and woman would jump the broom. It was against the law for a slave to learn to read or write. Some of them tried and were caught. Or have a meeting even to preach the Word of God. Again, always getting spied on. Every 100 years, that old train will follow the same route I traveled on the Underground Railroad, so that we'll never forget the cost of freedom. Sometimes the train is a farmer's wagon, sometimes it's a hearse covered with flowers inside a live slave hides in a coffin. You miss this train, Cassie, but you can follow always one step behind, and when we reach freedom in Canada, you'll be reunited with BB, your brother. Cassie, though you can fly, being a slave will suck you to the ground like quicksand. You'll have to walk many miles through the woods and waters on blistered feet, and there will be a bounty hunter eager to collect a reward on your head. Follow the North Star, the Big and Little Dipper. In daylight, look for moss growing on the side of the tree that faces north, and along the way, there will be Underground Railroad agents to give you a place to stay, clean clothes and food, but until you reach Canada, you're not safe. Go and don't turn back, and remember, if you're caught, you'll be severely punished. That's what slavery was. First, you must escape from the slave plantation. Tell no one. Wait until night falls so you won't be seen. Then follow the trail through the woods to a gray farmhouse on the river. Your first night will be the hardest. Listen carefully to the song of the birds. When you're in danger, their song will become screams that only you can hear. Then you must stop and head in the opposite direction. When you lie down to rest, you'll hear me sing the old spiritual. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. Let me lullaby you to sleep, and when I stop singing and you hear the birds scream, wake up and move on. I reached the gray farmhouse on the river, and I slept in the farmer's attic. It was dark, scary, cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghosts, but the farmer and his wife were very kind. There was a note under the pillow. It said, "Dear Cassie, I'm frightened, but I'm a big boy. I will not turn back. Love, Bebe." Then Aunt Harriet's voice came like a gust of wind. Follow the river north until you reach a clapboard house with green shutters and a red brick chimney. There will be a blind railroad agent who will ask you to sing a song. You'll sing, "Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go." She'll give you food and a place to sleep, and by nightfall, you must be on your way through the woods. I found Bebe's baseball cap floating in a swamp. It was torn to shreds. I squeezed the mud out of it. "Leave the cap, Cassie," Aunt Harriet's whispering voice said. "Go on to the weather-beaten frame house with a star quilt flung on the roof. If you don't see the quilt, hide in the woods until it appears. Then it's safe to go in. The next night, follow the road to the bridge several miles away." So again, that freedom quilt, the North Star symbol, is what kept slaves safe, and they knew it was okay to go further. I traveled through the woods and swamps. I was cold, wet, hungry, but I could not turn back. When I reached the bridge, I hid in a graveyard on a hill overlooking the river. It was there I found Bebe's toy soldiers and a set of baseball cards, buried alongside the grave of a boy who was Bebe's age. I was too afraid to cry. I lay awake till I heard Aunt Harriet's familiar whisper, "Wait for a railroad agent disguised as a gravedigger. He'll say, 'I bring you a ticket for the railroad.'" Now the tears came streaming down my cheeks like rain. I would see Bebe soon, oh so soon. In a tiny yellow house on the edge of the city, a little girl my age gave me a ticket for the steam car and sewed a fake pass to freedom she had made on my undershirt. It read, "Cassie Louise Lightfoot, free-born in New York. Show that to anyone who tries to take you back to the slave plantation," she said. But look, they're on her tail again. So they had to write a note that said that they were born in a free state like New York up in the north so that they wouldn't be taken back to the south to a plantation. I reached the back door of a shoemaker's house and knocked 3 times. That time I slept in a secret room behind a bookcase. Bebe had been there and left another note. "Dear Cassie, I have a new baby sister. She was born today. We named her Freedom. Her mother got sick and went to heaven. She let me carry baby Freedom on my back. Love, Bebe." After a few days' rest, I started out again with new shoes the shoemaker had made me. "Move on, Cassie," Aunt Harriet's voice told me. "You're very close to the border of the free state of Pennsylvania. Look for the letter P written on a rock facing north. But still, beware of bounty hunters. They can kidnap you at any time. Until you reach Canada, you're not safe." So here's the bounty hunters. Here's the rock with the P for Pennsylvania. She's getting close. In New York, a bookbinder hid me in a secret compartment he had built into his wagon. In a downpour of rain, he delivered me to a funeral parlor. There was a funeral going on, so no one noticed me. The undertaker gave me a withered rose Bebe had left behind, and a note that said, "Dear Cassie, we stayed at the house of a millionaire. He gave Aunt Harriet a bunch of money. We'll never be hungry again. Love, Bebe." The undertaker gave me a fresh-cut rose, hid me in the coffin of his hearse, and took me to Niagara Falls. Now I was just over the bridge from Canada. Have you ever been to Niagara Falls? Niagara Falls looked like a giant tea party with 1,000,000,000 cups of steaming hot tea being poured to a resounding applause. The steam from the falls formed a soft blanket that lifted me up above the falls and across the bridge to Canada. I could fly again because I was free. So flying is like a symbol of freedom. Before, when she was a slave on the Underground Railroad, she was sucked down to the ground and had to endure those hardships, but now she's free and feels as if she can fly. I could see Aunt Harriet and Bebe with baby Freedom still on his back, the passengers on the Underground Railroad and women all dressed in white, flying in a huge circle around them. "We're free! We shook the lion's paw," Aunt Harriet yelled in a voice that shot through the air like a joyous bolt of lightning. "Go down, Moses," Bebe said, "and let my people go," the others sang out. They got their trip to freedom. I kissed Bebe over and over and made him promise he'd never ever leave me again. I love you, Cassie, but I had to go, Beebe said. Freedom's more important than just staying together, and what's more, I got to ride on the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman. Now I know what our great-great-grandparents survived when they were kids. So that day, there was a big feast, and a quilt celebrating the 100th anniversary of Harriet Tubman's first flight to freedom hung in the sky. People came to eat, dance, and sing praise to Aunt Harriet for taking us from slavery to freedom and for being the Moses of her people. So one last freedom quilt. The 100th anniversary of Harriet Tubman's first ride, 1849 to 1949. So we got to wait a few more years. If the year right now is 2020, how many more years until the 200th anniversary of the Underground Railroad? So if it's 2049 and we're in 2020 right now, do a little math there, 29 more years. So in the back of the book they have a picture of Harriet Tubman, the real Aunt Harriet, and then a little map of the Underground Railroad. You could see Michigan was part of it because we're up north, and then Niagara Falls is right here, and then Canada, a whole different country from the United States, was the most free. But again, down south here, these gray states, they had slaves. There's the free Pennsylvania, the New York, Niagara Falls to Canada. So that is the story of Aunt Harriet, Harriet Tubman, a symbol of freedom. And it's written and illustrated by Faith Ringgold, African-American artist and icon herself. Champion artists, champions of freedom and doing what is right. So I hope that you stand up tall for what is right, follow your dreams, and hopefully are inspired to make some amazing artworks as well. Adios, amigos.